Well, nachos. What's going on, my vibrational individual expression of God on earth? Today, we want to jump right in with this. Uh, what I've been doing for the last 30 years as we delve into uncover and understanding POS. POS is your own personal operating system. Man, we're at the day and age where we don't really need, another course, another program, not even another report from the perspective of what we call a, vague description that could be applied to anybody. 2026 is the year of 2026, which represents 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 6 is 10, 10, 1 and 0 is 1. So we're talking about establishing your own current identity signature. The reason why this is so important is because once we understand what is the true core issue, aka problem, aka concern, at the end of the day, of each one of us, we have a lot of distractions from the perspective of opportunities. And so when we look at the individual way of establishing something that allows you to separate yourself from the marketplace, that's based upon your current life status, and that's based upon your internal conflict and behavior, that's also tapping into the true identity and your self-perception, the way by which you perceive yourself, along with your income and purpose alignment. How does your income align with your purpose, along with over and understanding the numerology of your name, which is what we've been talking about for years as we get into the Dear Canoe Report and what the Dear Canoe Report is all about, and how man is name and name is man, and breaking all of that down into a individualized master system. There was a lot of, things that I've done when it comes to using, what I call AI wealth activation, the ability to take advantage of what AI brings to the marketplace and then structure it. So your personal stability and your personal income. So if we're able to establish a diagnosis, so we've got to be able to kind of establish your own personal income that's based upon your own personal diagnosis as far as how this relates to you personally. And so a lot of this stuff is too generalized. And so once we're able to personalize this information, so this information is out there now that we have artificial intelligence. What I mean by out there simply means that, most of these reports are very generic. They could apply, your personalized information could apply to anybody who really looking at educational and development as an individual. How do you as an individual, how have your life experiences tailored your way by which you see the world in a specific frequency, wave, verbal vibration, or pattern? And we all know that, patterns are power. Patterns have the perspective. Patterns have the potential to establish extreme power. So where patterns are not known, abuse is inevitable. Another word for pattern, as we know, is purpose. And so where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And so the ability for you to tap into, who you are designed and gifted by God to be, that leads to your own personal stability. And personal stability comes before personal income. So clarity is the new reality. Clarity is the new income. Your income matches your clarity, but it's matching with the clarity of your structure. And so if there is no clarity of structure or self, then there is a lack of what we want to call personal income. So for me personally, this has been revolutionary. Revolutionary from the perspective of structure or is very, 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 very small steps that are repeated over time. Structure is like what I do when I do my frequent intense training. That's structure. Structure is repeatable. Steps that are usually boring. That is why it is extremely difficult for the average Alikibilan to establish structure. Structure comes from doing these repeatable patterns over and over and over and over again. Structure is doing small things over and over and over again. It doesn't really matter if those small things are done well, even though that is a part of it. But the bigger part of understanding structure is understanding that this thing that you're doing, that's a part of your purpose, has to be done repeatedly. That's structure. So moving forward, the issue that most people have is a lack of structure. It's based on purpose. The problem that most people have is a lack of structure that is based upon purpose. A lot of people have a lot of stuff that they do, but they do it, I'm going to use the word, one time. And that is, talking from personal, real life experience. So this is not learned behavior. This is speaking to you from a person who has created a lot of content using purpose. But I had to go and establish my own diagnosis to get the correct prescription. And so I couldn't get the prescription from a doctor from the perspective of spiritual purpose, because now I know it's not about doing one thing well. So in the past, I could do one thing, and that one thing was done at a very high level. But that just led to one high income month. There was no structure to be able to duplicate that high income month because I did not have a system by which to determine what created that high income month. And I didn't need one because the high income month was coming back to back. So I could do a 10, 20, 30K month that was based upon purpose. Doing one thing and getting for it by solving. Sorry about that background noise. I'm going to have to switch over. But by solving other people's problems. That was it. And so that was working. There was no need to change it. Now I'm at a higher level of awareness because now personal stability creates income alignment. And it's interesting because I've noticed that my money changed based upon how my personality changed. Simply meaning that when things was going on in my personal life, it affected my monetary life. So when I lost my daughter, my biological father transitioned, when things were going on at home with me and the wife, whatever was going on in my personal life was affecting my money because of a lack of doing little things well. Meaning, I noticed it didn't affect my physical life because I have a structure. I have a routine. Every day, regardless of what's going on, I get up and I do cardio. Every day, regardless of what's going on, in the evening, I do weights. I've been doing that for years. All my life since middle school. Fitness has always been a part of my life from football. Me and my brothers was always involved in football. We always in the military. My older brother Glenn, my brother Gary. We are. It's ingrained in us. We wasn't born with it, but we had a natural inclination for physical fitness because of it was something that we established and created a step-by-step process that was repeated every single day. It wasn't based upon motivation. It's not based upon feeling. Okay, I feel it today, I don't feel it, and so it had nothing to do with it. Structure has nothing to do with feelings. Structure has nothing to do with motivation. You need no reverend, no doctor, no bishop. Structure, patterns, routine, habit. But it's difficult for us to establish stability in an environment of instant or distractions or TikTok. So we are bombarded with all of these distractions. So distractions cause inactions. But see, we don't see them as distractions. Most people don't see what they're doing, how they're living, as a distraction. I know for me personally, I never viewed that the way that I live my life as the problem. I didn't know that my creativity was actually my liability. Now I gotta say this slowly so that way you can process it. I didn't realize that my creativity, my gift, my creativity, I don't know nobody that can out create me. I know there's probably somebody out there, I just ain't met them. So the amount of stuff, but my creativity is also my liability, just like you. Your problem is actually your cure. Your curse is your cure. So the thing that you are the best in the world at, if it's not structured, if you're just, because remember, we're so good at it, we don't need a routine. We don't have to think, I don't have to think about creating content. I get downloads every day, 24/7, 365. So I don't put my downloads in order. I don't put all my wealth downloads, all my health downloads, all my religious and spiritual downloads. I can see a phrase or a movie and get a tremendous spiritual revelation. I don't categorize it as a spiritual revelation. I just get a revelation. I can see the forest for the trees. I can watch a movie and get some deep, esoteric, spiritual meaning. Then I go to a book and a show and a series about it. But I never structure the content. I never categorize it. I just create and create and create and create and create. I never put it in a system. I never, did any marketing. I never used my understanding of the psychology of selling. I know the psychology of selling. I know that people don't buy products. People don't give a rip about your product. They don't care about you or your personality. People only care about one thing, just like me. What the beep is your product going to do for me? Can you solve my problem? Period. Ain't nobody buying why do you buy toilet paper? Do you buy toilet paper because you like toilet paper? Nah. Why do you go to the grocery store and buy food? Why do you buy steaks if you like protein? Or why do you buy fruits and vegetables if you're a vegan? You buy things because they solve problems. I buy toilet paper because it solves a problem. If I did not have that problem, I would not purchase that paper. See, we are structuring. Some of us not structuring at all. Yours truly. I had no need for structure. I've been flying from the seat of my pants since birth. I just been making up shit as I go. No plan. No, like, I never structured. I never thought about retirement. Like, retirement, what is that? I just assumed when I get to this age, you know, I would be at a place in my life where I would be, you know, financially free. That I would not need a 401k or some type of retirement account. I figured I would always be in a space where I'm creating. I never thought of retirement. I like retirement. Why would I ever stop being me? It's like stop breathing. Why would I stop breathing? But now that I'm at the space where a lot of people are at retirement, and I don't have what a lot of people have that have lived 60 plus years to fall back on when it comes to retirement. Because I've never had a desire, nor do I have one today, to just sit at home and watch TV, play golf, or do whatever retired people do. I don't know how not to create. But when it comes to time to go on a cruise or do something or, you know, just relax, go fishing with the wife, that's where retirement comes in. So without structure, you have no retirement. So you always have to create. Now, it's not bad if you like creating like I do, but what if you're not a creator? Everybody's not a creator. Everybody's not threes. Like my wife's not a three, she's a four. So my wife needs structure. This is how I learned a lot of stuff I'm sharing with you. Like my wife, she's structured. I have a sister named Brenda, she's structured. I have a brother named Glenn, he's structured. Me, I've never had structure. I don't like structure. That's why I've never had a job. I mean, I've had a bunch of jobs, but I never stayed on a job and retired. Because that requires structure. That requires discipline. That requires you to follow orders, even though you may not like those orders. That requires you to sit down and shut the when you don't feel like it. That requires you not to be a control freak and a perfectionist. Because guess what? There may be somebody that may know a little something more than you. So stability comes from structure, comes from patterns, comes from something that is repeated over time. I think about my sister, she stayed on her job for 38 years. That requires discipline. That requires structure. That requires focus. That requires all of the attributes and characteristics that I preach about and talk about every day and been doing for the last 30 years. Those have been exhibited by my sister because every day she did something regardless of feelings. I'm sure there were some days, right, Brand? There were some days she woke up, she didn't feel. She went into it. But structure, a repeatable pattern over time, that's success. Stability comes before income. I had income before stability. So this new system throws out living by the seat of your pants, which is awesome. What it does is it forces you to narrow down living by the seat of your pants. It's for creators like me. It's not really for people like my sister Brenda or my wife. My wife gets a big fat check every month for the rest of her life from Uncle Sam. Now, I get a small check every month from Uncle Sam. Why? Because I did not do what my wife did. I get a small check from, Social Security. Why? Because I did not do what my sister Brenda did. So the value, there is immense value for us as individual expressions of God, especially for people like me who are threes. If you're not a three, if you're a four, you have an unfair advantage. If you are a seven, you have an unfair advantage. If you are 8, you have an unfair advantage. But now I'm on the other side, I understand that the importance of the story going back to the tortoise and the hare. Remember, the tortoise actually ran one race of the Bible. The race not won by will, but it's won by he that endured to the end. You have to have a step-by-step system, but this is the advantage that I have. My system is based up on fun, focusing unconditionally on the now. Fun. Now, I can't speak for my sister Brenda, but I know that there were some days that probably not fun. I watch my wife and I see, the discussions, when we have discussions and arguments, it's always about one thing. Well, maybe a couple of things, but the biggest thing that really gets in the way is the way by which that step-by-step process is established. Meaning, there's a lot of times, like as my sister just texted me, which I already know. She says, many days I wasn't feeling it. My wife tells me that. Sometimes there are some days she says, honey, I wish you were independently wealthy. So that way I could pick the days. Or I can go into a frequency, a signal or signature, which is the term that I'm using for my new level of awareness going into 2026. I've always had the signal. Always. Since birth, I've had the signal. Since birth, I've had a signature. Since birth, I've always had crystal clear clarity of my daily activity. Let me say this again. This is the most important thing. Crystal clear clarity of my daily activity. Let me say it again. Crystal clear clarity of my daily activity. However, that is a curse as well as a cure. Because crystal clear clarity of your daily activity, when it doesn't align with the dominant culture's design, your ass in trouble. There's nothing wrong with having crystal clear clarity of your daily activity. Nothing wrong with that, Brother Jibade. But what happens when that crystal clear clarity of your daily, like my daughter Sade, had crystal clear clarity of the daily activity, which was dance. Thankfully, I was at the high enough level by the time she got out of high school, and she tried to, get on Dallas Cowboys. She tried to do this. And every organization said, well, you dropped about 30 pounds. I mean, she was already like 110. But they kept telling her, like, you too thick. And I'm like, but then I saw everybody that she was competing against. Blonde, Caucasian, blue eyes, look like sticks. They was dancing sticks. So my daughter wasn't one of them. So, go out to there, join a system or create your own. Join a system, try to find your system. I highly recommend. Especially now with the economy. Find a system. But if you can't, for whatever reasons, like me and my daughter in the same frequency range, but the goal, I prefer you to get paid for doing, like I tell you guys, when I finally bumped into that, that company that I was hanging out with in California, and me and the wife was debating about moving to California. I mean, this was many, many years back. And I was getting, starting salary was like around $1 million a year, and everything was going great until my creative daily activity could no longer be utilized. One of the requirements, and then COVID hit right after that, and next thing I knew that they kind of like, COVID really hit them really hard or whatever, and for whatever reasons, that opportunity was no longer there. But the point of the matter is I could not stop my God-given creative daily activity. That means the things that I be and do naturally. What if somebody comes up to you and says, I pay you $1 million? That's what Hollywood does, by the way. I pay you $1 million if you are a man but you dress up like a woman. I'll pay you $1 million if you do this role, and if you become Medea. If you're a grown man, you 6+ tall, 200+ pounds, but you can't find a female to play. I mean, out of all the women in America, you need to tell me. Now again, I love Medea. I like Tyler Perry. Everything, and nothing against my boy. If I had the opportunity, and they would say, "Hey Doc, if you just put on the dress, homie, and blah, blah, you'll be a multi-millionaire." Where do I sign? So again, I ain't mad at my boy. I've done the same thing. So let me tell you, I can take care of my family, get out the ghetto. All I got to do is put on a dress. Even though I know that's probably not the best thing to do. Would I have done it? Absolutely. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm better than Tyler Perry or better than anybody else. No. If y'all was giving us that, I don't agree with it, but there's a lot of things that I do that I don't agree with. But it's between putting plate, if it's between, if it's now, again, I'm on the other side. I raised, my first marriage had 5 kids, man. We struggled. We live in roach-infested places. They wouldn't like my second marriage, my first marriage, they wasn't raised the way they're in second marriage. Why? Because of what I'm telling you now. Creativity is awesome, but it's a fucking curse. Because if you don't have stability, if you don't have the ability to create, remember the definitions of the terms. Stability means every single day you wake up, rain, sleet, snow, shine, your dog bit you in the earth. You are consistent, doing small things over time, regardless of your feelings. As I tell you guys before, I learned this from my wife. Stability. I learned it from my sister Brenda, my brother Glenn. I watched them over all these years. Now I'm on the other side of 60. So I don't have no big savings account or no big 401 plan. But you can structure creativity into your daily activity and still maintain stability. That's the new game. That's the new level of awareness. I'm not saying I would stop or change. What I would change, I would have creativity built into structure. You can have both. Stability first, income second, but clarity daily. That is the new level of reality. You don't want to just do something just for the sake of doing it, but you also cannot do what I did and just live your life at the seat of your pants and just, if you don't feel like going to work, you just don't go. Somebody supervisor, like me, and I learned from my father. I'm going to talk to my biological father, and he tell me all the time, "Yeah, boy, they pissed me off, I quit." So I did the same thing. Supervisor say, "Hey, man, I need you to go pick up that box." Man, bump you, pick it up yourself. No, bro, that's why we hired you, homie. We hired you to pick up boxes. No, I ain't picking up the box. Okay, next. But then who suffered? My children. So I learned this the hard way. I didn't read this in the book, like all the shit I talk about. And the reason why this is so important is because now we have to understand that you don't need motivation. You're not lazy. You don't need no therapist. You don't need no reverend, no doctor, and the Bishop Negro. You know what to do. They're like I did. You know right from wrong. Everybody in this group, everybody I talk to, nobody on this call under the age of 21. This ain't nobody's first rodeo. We all know clarity is currency. So what is it that's causing self-sabotage? It's selfish gratification and ego-driven activity. Again, I didn't read that in the book, but I know the reason I did what I did. I knew I needed to go to work. I knew I didn't have a backup plan. When I got in the Marines, I didn't have nothing planned but the Jubilee. I had no savings. I just got out because the preacher said, Jesus had a plan for me. Is it the preacher's fault? No, it's my fault. If you take personal responsibility, this is hard. But if you're really serious about moving forward, because this is what I'm doing, every problem in your life is your fault. You and your wife get in an argument, it's your fault. Bill came due, you got enough money, it's your fault. You get sick, you go to the doctor, it's your fault. What happens if you take accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens in your life. You know what happens? You got to figure it out. And you know what happens? God leads you and guides you. There's always a ram in the bush. If there's a will, there's a way. So you, like me, you have to keep your clarity. But now you have to add in your stability to bring about an alignment. You and I both have to now establish what is called in physics coherence. So coherence is when you feel grounded, when you feel decisive, and when you feel confidence. When you are able to establish crystal clear clarity of self, which is the same thing as crystal clear clarity of source or God, because source is hidden inside one place that he knew you wouldn't look, which is self. So what does that look like? Okay, that looks like head, heart, gut coherence. That's what the dominant culture calls it. If you go to heartmath.org, if you listen to all the stuff that's coming out on TikTok, this is the new game. But what if you now take that head, heart? So the first thing is head, heart, gut coherence. That's what this report does. Now I thought it was easy until I realized that most people that I talk to don't have that. They don't have head, heart, and gut coherence. In other words, their head is saying one thing, their heart is saying something else. And their gut, they just totally ignoring their gut. Ladies, you know how you do that? You get that feeling that something's going wrong in your relationship or this, that, and another, but they call it woman's intuition. And what happens, ladies, when you don't listen to your gut? Yeah, you don't end up well. Why? Because God tells you. You know what's going on. You just don't want to, just like me. You get a feeling. Now, men, we have it too. Excuse me. So the first thing that this does, and because of the new AI, I've learned that, I don't know if you guys know this, but what people are doing is they can take any URL, your website, put it in artificial intelligence and duplicate your exact website. I don't know if you saw the guy that his name is it's H.O. He has a weird name, but he came up with this $1 million system. It was all over TikTok. He was making mad money. And then now everybody else is doing the exact same thing. I don't know, I'll find his name in a second, but what does that mean? That means that the moment that you put anything online, it goes up into the cloud. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I don't use the cloud. Now remember, the cloud is free, but I noticed all my books that I was releasing, the PDF version was starting to show up on the internet for free. You just Google the name of the book, my name, Master 33, click enter, because if you don't use Microsoft Word, and if you use Google Docs, anything that you do on Google Docs is free. They don't tell you that. So this guy did his stuff on, like, if you use OpenAI, if you use ChatGPT, everything that you do on ChatGPT goes into the cloud, which means anybody can access it. Now, I think that old boy was smart enough to, I think he knew that and really just, maybe he wanted to make it free online. I don't know. His name was Alex. Now Google $1 million system, ALEX, Alex Hormozi, HORMOZI. Now, I don't know if you know, but people are they're Googling this. Everything is about prompt engineering. So I've created 10 different apps over the last, let's say, month or so. From the blood code to the Sethian Academy, to everything that I've been talking about. And I used 5 different, I used Lovable. Remember, we broke this down. That's just another class, but I just need to explain to you what's going on, so that way, especially for us melanated people, because most of us, what I'm doing I don't know, maybe Brother Jibbiday might be in the space, but there is not, like, everybody in the group, nobody's really understanding what's going on. And not that you need to, but lovable, emergent, cafe or caffeine, these are all names of AI app builders. So they took my boy's $1 million, his name is Alex Hormozy, and all they did was copy or steal, that way they had to pay for it, his prompt. Prompt is now the framework, the wording, because now remember, you don't have to learn coding anymore. All you have to do is put the words in the right order to produce the right response. Now that's called an incantation, which I've been teaching that for 30 years. That's in the Bible. But most of us, we don't know how to put our words in a particular order to provoke and invoke a particular response. So in other words, all psychology, sales psychology, the people who make the most money are the people that, like it says in Matthew 23, woe to you scribes and Pharisees. A scribe and a Pharisee back then is a letter writer. It's a person that has the ability to use grammar, grammaria, and grammatus. So in the ancient text, what I'm doing right now is called magic. Anybody that had the ability to do, like my daughter, Charlie told me when she was like a little baby, she would follow me around on my real estate deals. I would take her with me, and she would say, "Dad, you got a mouthpiece." That's magic. According to the ancient text, that's abracadabra. I create what I speak. So the richest people in the world are the people that have the best vocabulary. So now if you got a good vocabulary and you use what I call, again, I have my AI wealth accelerator, which is a prompt. And so I've been playing around with this, and thankfully stumbled upon the right prompt. And the prompt now goes into, just like I told you guys before, what happens if you take your Dear Canary report and upload it into ChatGPT. You should try it. You should take your 750-page report and put it into ChatGPT. Now, the dark side of that is it gets uploaded to OpenAI, meaning if someone wanted to be you, your name, your date of birth, your blood type, and all that stuff is inside of yours, they would have, if somebody wanted to control you, if somebody wanted to con you, like I said, the 30 plus years I've been doing this, I told you guys about the guy in Canada, the young kid who was 14, 15 years old, ordered his Dear Canary report. I immediately got a call from his mom and dad who was angry and pissed off because they were witches. And so they knew that anybody that had that amount of information could control that individual. So I had to give the guy a refund, blah, 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 blah. So no witch, and I told you guys, go to Google, no witch will show you that picture. All those accounts on Facebook that you see, those are witches. I've had 3 card-carrying witches that have been prior clients. I don't even know what they look like today, because they know that if you see their picture, your picture contains pictures or pixels. That's your aura. So if you go like my boy, I finally found him, man. He was gone for a long time. I got a chance to text him. We both had the same name. His last name is Hawkins, Dr. Will Hawkins. He's back on TikTok, and he has a new electrical blankety blank blank machine. Just Google Dr. Will Hawkins. And he disappeared. He was gone. It's like my little Greek buddy. I still haven't heard or found him yet. Remember the guy that was duplicating my stuff? What's the point? The point is the dominant culture over and understands what the CIA recently released document is HemiSeq. Now, thankfully, by the grace and mercy of God, I've been doing HemiSeq since I was 5. So that's brainwave entrainment. In other words, that is the ability for you to control any person on the planet. Now, the Bible calls it discernment. Discernment is the ability to read energy. But now there's a higher level of reading. I've always been able to read energy. But there are some people who interpret and manipulate energy. That's what they call, again, switches or witches. Now, again, we're not here to promote manipulating and conning people, which if I was a bad guy, I would never have to work. Because I just have somebody else paying my bills. But the point is to get to this space of understanding how do you now take your creative daily clarity. That's the first step. So most people can't recognize their creative daily clarity, meaning there's things that you do automatically every day that comes easy to you. You don't see no value in it. It could be the way you brush your teeth. It could be the way you comb your hair. It could be your facial routine. I remember back in the day with Sister Addie had this facial routine. Remember I told her about it and she started marking it, and I don't know if she still does it or whatever, like I said, she went on off to bigger and better things. Same thing, you guys remember way back in the day, had another sister Candace. Same thing. She took her daily routine, and last I heard, she was making good money. Y'all remember Sister Veronica, whose name, her real name, remember she didn't go by her real name. Her real name was Sister Zakia. She hated her name. I met her biological father had just died, and she was in depression and blah, blah, blah. Now you see her on Facebook, what is she doing? She's an actor or actress, getting paid to do what they said when I met her. They said that, she has some mental issues and blah, 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 because she has the ability to switch characters or to hold different characters in her brain at the same time. So what am I saying? I'm saying that creative expression that you have naturally has to be structured. That's the last piece of the puzzle for me. I've always had the creative ability. I've always had download. I've never had structure. I've never seen the value in structure until I met my wife. And also I've seen it with my sister Brenda and my brother Glenn. So I've seen structure, but to me, structure always meant boring. It always meant I could not be me. Because I didn't know, how do I put creativity in a box? Well, you put creativity in a box by narrowing down the creativity to purpose. Because your purpose was given to solve problems. The only reason that, remember, the Bible says your gift will make room for you and take you before kings, because your gift, remember, King David became king because he had something that nobody else could do. That was the ability to do what? Interpret dreams. So the king called him in because he had a dream and nobody could interpret the dream. So your dream, your purpose, your gifts, your destiny solves problems. Nobody cares about your product. Nobody cares about your clever marketing campaign. At the end of the day, the people who solve the most problems make the most money. At the end of the day, the people who solve the biggest problems, they make the biggest money. So I get you problem solving same way to me. But most of us, we have not, number one, stabilized our mind. Number two, reconnected or restored our individual signal. We break that down in a sec. And number two, we haven't learned how to convert clarity into income. So those are the three things that this, what I call executive summary, does. Remember, I've been doing creativity and destiny reports and, life optimization reports, and life has been great. I've been sharing esoteric information. We've been talking about everything from, the esoteric meaning of the name Jesus, all the way to the Anunnakis, all the way to the coming cataclysm. We've talked about all type of topics and subjects based upon the download that I was receiving, not knowing that was a curse. What was a curse? My creativity. What is my gift? My creativity. How can your gift be a curse? Because the word curse has the word cure in it. If you look at the C-U-R-S-E, you just got to get rid of the S. You got to get rid of the snake. You got to get rid of the sign. You got to get rid of the cyclical. You got to replace the sickle, the sick, with the signal. So we're getting rid of the serpent, if you want to use that term, and we're removing the S-U-R-S-E, and we just got in S-S-T-R-E, the cure. What is the cure? The cure is to remove choice, like in the Matrix. If you really listen to the Matrix and the Merovingian, when they was telling Neo, when they were in that scene, I think it was the first Matrix, and they're sitting and the Merovingian was talking to him. And he kept telling them their choice. Because when you think about choice, choice removes you from your individual identity or your internal frequency. See, your head, your heart, and your gut, your brain, and your heart, and your CNS, and your central nervous system, and your automatic nervous system, is broadcasting a specific frequency, wave, and vibration. But anytime you make a decision, anytime you change your attention, anytime you adjust your behavior, what you're doing is you're fragmenting and you're overriding, and then you're going to overwhelm, then you're going to distract, and then you're going to bring about inconsistency, and then you become spiritually dull because you are so, remember, you chose to remove yourself from your alignment with your God-given assignment. How does that work, or how does that happen? We do that unknowingly, thinking that we are making a decision that moves us towards God, not knowing that we are already in alignment with God. Because remember, anything that's flashy and exciting is not God. Anything that is boring, anything that is routine, anything that is stable, anything that is practical, anything that is dependable, all of those attributes and characteristics, those are dull. Why? Because it's like putting a seed in the ground. What happens when you put a seed in the ground? Nothing. So what do you got to do? Wait. And then you keep waiting. You got to water it. You got to hope that, the weather cooperates. So same thing with your spiritual game. It's just like you have a thought. You got to place that thought into your belief system that says, I already have. So you're supposed to, what the Bible says, when you ask as one who have already received. So when you pray, you're supposed to pray believing that you already received the thing that you prayed for. So you're not asking. What you're doing is you're thanking. You're coming with a spirit of expectation. The biggest mistake that most people make when it comes to prayer, people think prayer is asking. No, prayer is declaring and decreeing. Prayer is confirming. Prayer is just reminding God of what He already said He's going to do. That's why I pray. I just tell God what I didn't say, you said. You said that no weapon formed against me will prosper. All who rise up against me will fall. I didn't write it. That's what you wrote. You said that you wish to do exceedingly abundantly above. So all I do is just remind God of His significance, of His magnificence. And I just keep reminding God. It's like a little kid. If you tell my kids, if you told them, I said, man, Saturday we're going to go play. Monday, Dad, we still going on Saturday? Yeah, Saturday's like 7 days away. Tuesday, Dad, we still going? Wednesday. Kids going to keep asking because you said it. Well, the big G is no different. The universe only responds to a made-up mind. So choice is when you made up your mind that you want a job for $15 an hour, but because the job is not showing up, you start settling. Then somebody offers you a job for 12, and you're like, okay, yeah, man, yeah, I'm gonna jump on it. But I thought you wanted a job for 15. And so whenever we remove, whenever we separate, whenever we change, remember, success means showing up every second of every single day and making the same choice. That's all marriage is. You have to choose to be married. What if you decide one day you don't want to be married? If you keep making that decision not to be married, pretty soon you ain't going to be married. Because every day you got to make a decision. To do what? To validate the previous decision. So when you get a string of decisions, that's what a neural net is. The brain establishes a neurological network anytime there's a bunch of repeated experiences. I mean, it's crazy, but the reticular activation system doesn't operate on truth. It doesn't operate on fiction. It operates on whatever's frequently repeated. So success is a frequently repeated thought. Same thought. I am wealthy. Tomorrow, I am wealthy. The next day, I am wealthy. The next day, I am wealthy. The next day, I'm wealthy. Then the brain says, no, you ain't. Then your bank account, remember, as soon as you say, I am blank, you get the opposite of that. Your job is that in the midst of adversity, still choose and still stick with the choice that you make. That's structure. That's pattern. That pattern recognition and pattern establishment. That's how you override a negative habit pattern. So anytime you want to stop something, start something. You want to stop chewing gum, then start drinking water. You want to stop smoking, start chewing gum. So most people try to stop. I'm going to stop, so I'll just stop eating. Well, if you don't lose weight, you can't stop eating. But you can start exercise. So just focus on the start. Every time you get hungry, jump on the treadmill. What happens? You lose a lot of weight. How do I know? I've been doing it for 30 years. So the system is built. The brain is set up to recognize frequently repeated activities. That's it. The secret to success is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. But the missing ingredient is doing the same thing that you are designed by God to do over and over and over again. Structured. See, I've always had half of the equation. So now the goal is to add the other piece of the puzzle. That way you are able to identify your signal that you already got because you was born with it. It's in your date of birth. That's why I do date of birth reports so I can show you your signal. Your signal is your most predominant thought. It's innate. It's below the threshold. You do it automatically every day. Like I tell you, like when I met my wife, she was dependable, practical, loyal. All of the attributes and characteristics. Every word inside the number 4, automatic. And she knew nothing about Dilton reports, numerology, gematria, theomathematics, biblical alphanumerics, all the stuff that I've been studying my entire life. She exuded all those things. Just like every client out of the thousands of people that I've come in contact with and still come in contact with. Got brand new babies, grandkids. And first thing I did was did their numbers. And their personality, like I told Sade when Sienna was a baby, getting kicked out of daycares. Telling Sade that, no, mommy, I don't want to be in the group. I want to be up here with you on the stage. I'm an instructor. So Sienna was saying that when she was 5. Say, no, mommy, I'm not taking no classes. Sienna was getting in trouble for going up to the front in elementary school to be a teacher. Why? Got all ones in her report. She got like 7 ones out of the 12 numbers. 7. So thankfully, my daughter understood, listened, and when, they wanted to, put a rope around her neck, I said, nope, Sade, she's doing what God designed and gifted her to be. Teach her how to channel it. Teach her how. Could you imagine if you was raised the same way, where your quote-unquote negative habit pattern was channeled into a positive expression? You know where you would be right now if you were supported, if you was elevated instead of tolerated, if you were raised in an environment where instead of being seen and not heard, somebody spoke truth to your power. Could you imagine if your voice was heard and elevated? I don't know how you was raised. I know how I was raised. Right, Brandon? We wasn't raised like that. So now it's time for us to be signal recognition specialists. Recognize the signal, the frequency, the wave, whatever words you want to use. Most Negroes get caught up on terms. I don't care what his name is. Just understand what the name does. Whether it's Yahushua, whether it was Jesus, Jesus, whatever. Negroes like to argue over stop signs. I'm not here to argue and debate. I'm interested in one thing and one thing only. Negro, can you pay your light bill on time? That's it. Income producing activities. Because at the end of the day, that's what we live in a world that is based upon income. It's based upon your ability to generate. And whether you like it or not, clarity based on do all the research like I've done. The people who show up in the marketplace with a clear solution to a clear problem get paid. If you got the cure to cancer and you show up in they probably remove you off the planet. But if you show up in the marketplace, let's do something simple. You got a lawn care business. Everybody else does a lot of lawn care, but you can do it faster and you can do it cheaper. Well, what's going to happen? Well, people are going to hire you to replace the guy that they got. Because you come to me, but if I got a lawn guy, I pay him $45 every time he show up. If somebody comes to me and say, hey, Doc, I can do the same thing for $25. I'm going to cut the grass, I'm going to weed eat, blah, blah, blah. What do you think I'm going to do? I mean, I ain't got no allegiance. I like the lawn guy who's there, but it's $45 every time he's swinging by. But if somebody comes by and say, I can do it for $25, I'm interested. It's the same thing. If you go buy a car, you go buy a brand new car, and it's let's say $30,000. Somebody comes out with the same model. You find another dealer who has the exact car that you're going to buy anyway, but they can give it to you for $25K instead of $30. Now, unless you got maybe the other guy may be a family member, okay. But 99.9999% of the time, people are going to purchase things not based upon personality, but based upon the ability to solve a specific problem in the most expedient and the least expensive manner. So that's your job, is to create a product, a service, or information that solves a specific problem based upon your own personal, real-life experience and your purpose. So most people are going into areas where they have no, what I call, hyper-spiritual structure. You want to make sure that if you really want to be successful, that you have your own internal stability. There's this guy on the internet that talks, and he's talking about what I've been saying for years, but he's this neuroscientist. And he talks about, he called it pinging. The people that can speak that produces the less pinging. What is pinging? Pinging is when you say something and people pick up doubt. Pinging is when a preacher preached with diction and tone. Remember I broke this down? That's why, now most preachers don't know when they preach, they just do it out of tradition. But the neuroscience, remember this is called glossolalia in the ancient text. So everything that a preacher does, everything that a biologist does, everything that a therapist does, everything that anybody does on this planet, I've already researched the science behind why they do it. Now, that's my job. I'm a researchologist. So when I speak, remember Jesus, when he spoke as one having authority. So the same way a male dog can tell when a female dog is ready, because there are pheromones in the air. These pheromones are invisible. Can't see it, can't touch it, can't taste it, but the body can tell. The nervous system of a male dog is stimulated by the frequencies in the air from the female dog. Same thing with lions. Well, the same thing happens in sales. Same thing happens in relationships. But the average, keep it on, again, Negroes don't study. Not all, some. Your job is to understand the psychology of selling. You can break it down in basically in one sentence. And that is simply understanding that when you speak as a person who has authority, that means confidence. That means personal experience. That means you should not be promoting or selling or talking about anything that you cannot speak from a place of authority. Do you guys remember when I first started? People just always asking me, man, how did I build my system when I first started? Before TikTok deleted all my stuff, before when I was making $30,000 a month, I did no paid advertising. Same thing I did back then, I'm doing now. I had to repivot and rebrand. So what did I do? I spoke. Everybody tell me the same thing, man. I listened to your show. Bro, you aired out all your dirty laundry. You spoke from the heart. I can tell that you was not reading an AI script. They didn't have AI back then. But just like this show, sure, I got a couple of notes. Stay on track. But it's straight out the dome. I'm speaking from my head. I'm including my heart. And I'm following my gut. So I'm not following no predetermined AI script. Because people can tell. People can tell if you selling smoke oil. I'm not here to sell, I'm here to serve. I'm here to share with you what God shared with me, which is, Negro, you've been doing good up to this point, but you've been flying from the seat of your pants. You've been creating products and services as you go. You have no need for people responding. Now, you got competition from artificial intelligence. So nobody's interested in information. Now people want transformation of a specific problem. So what specific problem have you solved? What specific transformation have you done for yourself? What specific hurdle have you overcome? So everybody's voice signal is established by their own unique pattern and behavior based upon their letters and their numbers that's inside of their name. So moving forward, AI is going to replace everybody except for the people who have a signal that's been emitted from their head, their heart, and their gut that comes directly from the throne. Your gift will make room for you and take you before kings. But you must speak as one having authority. You must speak with dunamis power. Peter, we know, Paul, we know, but who are you? So when you show up in the marketplace, you got to show up with a frequency range that's operating in love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness, self-control. Against such things, there is no law. There is no law. You cannot be pigeonholed. This is what is called spiritual loading. So everybody, your stability is determined by how many loads you're carrying at once. Everybody has a mental load that you have to, when I break this down, inside of the course, inside of the class, inside the book, whatever you want to call it. For me, all it is your executive summary, just like you do, you have a business report. Number one, your mentality, your mindset. Everything is based upon the mind. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But a lot of people have a mental load. What does that mean? That means that you got a lot of stuff on your brain. You got a lot of stuff you're worried about, so there's no room in your mind. Number two, a lot of people, you got unprocessed feelings. You got internal conflict. I used to have a lot of grief. I used to have a lot of unprocessed feelings, especially when my daughter died, that I had to work through at my own time and my own pace. So after the mental load, the emotional capacity, then there's the spiritual capacity, there's the spiritual load. A lot of people have, like I had, I struggled with, when I came into this level of awareness, I struggled with, okay, is Jesus Lord? Is Buddha God? I remember I studied all world religions. I was like doubting Thomas. Yeah, and he will show me the nail scars in your hand. But I thank God that I went through that way, because I know Jesus is Lord. I just know that Constantine ain't stupid. So he introduced another Jesus that's based upon the Greco-Roman system. So Constantine just muddied the waters. So that means you got to go through it yourself and do your own research. And then you come out on the other side and you have something called spiritual confidence. Because you removed all of the muddy waters. Again, there's different levels to the game, like Hebrews 6 tells us. So maybe you're not called to operate on that level. That's okay, because to whom much is given, much is required. So don't let nobody gaslight you if you're not on that level. Because maybe God don't want you to go as deep as I went. Maybe, you're just supposed to go to first base. And that's it. Because depending on your spiritual age, your head, your heart, and gut, everybody's different. No two people on this planet are the same. Then is the financial load. Last but not least, to a lesser degree, is what I want to call your environmental or your reality, where you live at. Because a lot of times where you live at affects you. Your people, your environment, inside your home. So we break down your mentals, break down your emotions, break down your spiritual, break down your financial, then we break down your environmental. And we make sure, I make sure that each and every one of these major areas that determines your wealth, your health, your wisdom, and your relationship. Because there is a root cause to your problem, and there's a root cause to your success. So nobody on this call or on this planet have a problem. We just have internal conflict. There is something that's out of alignment. So most people either have a vision versus execution problem, or people have what I had, which is a spirit versus structure problem. I had the right spirit, but I had no structure. Then some people have a service versus self problem. In all my years of doing counseling, those are the three issues that everybody has. Internal, that's self-sabotage. I just wrote the book on that. I talk about it out of that series. We all are sabotaging our own success. How? You got vision versus execution. You have a vision, but then there's no execution. What do I mean by that? I want to be, if you, let's say you want to be Mr. Olympia, okay? But you don't like eating healthy and you don't like working out. You got the vision. I want to be Mr. Olympia. You got the posters on the wall. You talking to bodybuilders. You doing everything. But it's time to go to the gym and you got to cut out them Krispy Kreme donuts. Ooh. Yeah. So you got a vision, but you ain't got no execution. Second problem. Spirit versus structure. What do I mean by that? I just simply mean that you found your spirit, your lane, your destiny. I found my destiny. I'm a master teacher. I love to create. But I have no structure by which I'm able to remove all of the creative activities that are distractions. So there's only specific things that I'm supposed to be creating. But what about all those other things are rabbit trails? Oh, but I want to talk about oceanography. Is that your purpose? No. I want to talk about the constellations. Is that your purpose? Did you go to? You've been to space? You got any personal experience up in the stars? Now I just like talking about it. Brother Jibber, it just sounds good, but yeah, you can't pay your light bill with that though. Ain't nobody gonna pay you to talk about it because there's somebody else who actually been to the stars. They know what the hell they talking about. You just regurgitating somebody else's stuff. So I'm very creative, so I talk about a lot of stuff that ain't got nothing to do with my purpose. So the devil's smart. The devil takes your gift and he gives you more of it. He don't care what the gift is. He turns your gift into a curse. The dude is smart. I ain't mad at it. You just got to be smart. Then the last issue, service versus self. We get so caught up with self that we lose the purpose of the self. Your purpose of being here is for service, not for self. The ability to remove those three internal conflicts so that way you can stop kind of like sabotaging yourself. So we go through that, we break down and we find which one of those three that you have, we identify it and remove it. That removes the alignment gap. See, most people are not in alignment with their assignment, and so they create the wrong climate. When you're not in alignment with your assignment, you're going to create the wrong climate. And last but not least is your own personal operating system. The whole point of this entire new system is to give you your own operating system, OS. Everybody has their own. No two people have the same. That's why this is so important that everybody you get your own operating system. That's just simply, again, every single day, you making a decision that supports your frame. Every day. And it's automatic. You don't need no mantras. You don't need no curanderos. You don't need, nobody to lay hands on you. You wake up every day and you've identified, just like Jesus did. And they said, Jesus, hey, what are you doing, Doc? I'm here to do the will of my Father. That's it. So what are you here to do? When you wake up every day and you know, you don't have to ponder it, you don't have to wish, you know exactly why you're here on earth. And every day you're making a decision that is incongruent with your inner guidance and your daily structure. Then you're able to automate clarity that brings about a income engine. And this income engine is the result of clarity that's based upon your God-given frame, which is in alignment. So you cannot experience toxic drain and toxic shame. Because when your head, heart, and your gut are in alignment, that creates this climate around you, this aura, that allows you to make income alignment decisions. That means that your identity is in coherence with your divinity. When your identity is in coherence with your identity, that means you're a joint heir. You're a holy nation. All of this stuff is in the Bible. All we're saying is the same thing that Jesus said. Jesus says, I wish that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Jesus said that he came that you may have life and life more abundantly. It is your job to understand that you can have your cake and eat it too. From the perspective of when you tap into the divinity or the God that is inside of you, and you get outside of this flesh, you stop doing things for clickbait. You stop doing things for attention. You really, really, really get rid of the ego. Because once you have crystal clear clarity of your God-given destiny, there's nothing that is more powerful than knowing every second of every moment of every day you are the best in the world at being and doing blank. You have no competition. You're the best in the world. Why? You've been doing it every day since birth. You just been ashamed of it. So every day since birth, I get ideas. My brain does not turn off. I just don't know what to do with half of them. I've been able to monetize a few of them. I didn't understand that I need to structure the ideals that are not in alignment with my assignment. What's my assignment? I'm a 6. What is 6? Compassion. There are certain ideals that are not compassionate. Okay, just write something to take somebody's money. Okay, what is the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So as long as I do what God has called and gifted me to do, my gifts will make room for me and take me before kings. So brothers and sisters, I got the more information. We got one more class that we'll be doing. We get into the structure and the cost that's involved, the basic, the intermediate, and the advanced program. Again, this is for rollout in 2026, but you guys know I start early. Today's the 22nd, so January the 1st is right around the corner. So every year, like times past, I always have a new system that I roll out for the following year. So this is 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. Then we break down to 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. So this is the year of the 1. You the 1. Because God has placed something inside of you. It's time for you to be who God has called and gifted you to be. Man, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank everybody for tuning in. We see you guys probably mañana or maybe the day after as we do part 3. I did part 1 earlier today on Facebook. And I will email that to everybody, or you can also just pick it up on my YouTube channel. All right, man. I love you guys. See you mañana. God bless.